Sorry that my hair is a mess. I have my headphones on. Jesus, this is this is a nightmare. Hopefully, this will solve it. Okay. Anyway, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another new video. Today, we are going to be touring the Botswanan army and what it is, what it consists of, what weapons they have, and stuff like that, along with some geography and other stuff. So let's get into the video, and also stay tuned for an announcement for another poll being posted later after this video has been uploaded. So let's get to it. This is the Botswanan army. Now, Botswana is not a nation yet because it's still a colony of Basaja, but the Basajans have allowed the colonists, or basically the people that live there, to become a mercenary force for their empire. As you can see, this is what their military is. Now, Botswana originally was going to be called Gretswana because it was like green, and that's what the original tribes people were. They were the Gretswa tribe, but when the Basajans came and occupied their land and made it one of their colonies, they changed their territorial name from Gretswana to Botswana, since it is it's a Basajan colony, and anything with the letter B is considered a Basajan colony. So that's why these guys are called Botswanans, not Gretswanans, even though originally they were Gretswanans, but they changed due to the colonizers. But they are friends with their colonial allies, and they have become a mercenary force for them. And they have recently fought in a war for the first time, known as the Plascan Revolt, which is why later in this video I'll explain about that. So let's get back to what I was doing. So these are the series of weapons that they're mostly armed. Over here we have a first version of the guard. This is used for the national border, guarding the border and bases on the border. So he's a border guard. Next we have the single action bolt rifleman. The first bolt rifleman that was a reject, and most of the weapons they have were rejects of the Basajan army, but they have proved to be effective for them, so they are used to them. So this is the Basajan rifleman. Botswanan rifleman. Bolt action. Next we have the translator. Since they have two languages that they speak now. They speak English and they speak Botswanan, which is their native language. So they have a translator here to help communicate between their army and the Basajan army to help coordinate better movements and strategy. So he's in charge of translating documents, letters, and even speaking to high commanding officers of both nations through both languages. So he has a very important role. Next we have our ambusher here, and he is in charge of ambushing on enemies. Basically he's a Botswanan commando, and he ambushes on the enemies that he is ordered to attack, and he can either raid the supplies for their allies or get intel from their allies, or capture a human being, or capture a prisoner, and that's what he will do. So this is the Botswanan commando. Also, to tell the difference between if the Botswanan is, I marked them with a B, which I know that this looks like crap, but if you look on this guy, they have a B on them, so that way I can separate them between other green nations, and they're easily recognizable. Next, we have the bazookaman, and this is an actual Basajan bazooka that they also have borrowed, so there you go. This is the Botswanan bazookaman with the Basajan bazooka that they have borrowed. Next, we have the Botswana radioman, which they have two radios, but they mostly use the Botswana radio, so this is the primary radio that they are using for their infantry. Next, we have a machine pistol gunner, which was used to be used for the Basajans, but the Basajans had rejected it because they didn't like using the weapons, so they gave it to their mercenaries and colonial army, the Botswanans, to use in combat, which proved effective for them, and they are useful. Next, we have the Charger, one of three Chargers. This one doesn't have a bayonet, but this is what he is also carrying a Basajan rifle and is wearing a Basajan uniform. So, yeah, that's what this guy is. They have a mortar for the first time. The Basajans were discussing about having their own mortar, but they rejected the idea because they have artillery and tanks, light infantry, and they didn't need a mortar unless, well, they didn't need a soldier carrying a mortar all around, so they gave it, basically most of the weapons they have, they rejected it, so this is what the Botswanans have. And also the uniform is different. So most of the time they have uniforms that were trashed from Greenland, but their own colonial nation, Basaja. And sometimes Basaja would lend them to have their own uniforms and have a mix of different uniforms for them. So, yeah. Which is why there are different colors. Next is the assault machine gunner, which he is carrying a Basajan machine gun. And he is on the field marching forward with his machine gun in hand and shooting as many enemies as he could. Then we have the second Charger, and this one has a bayonet and also is modeled the same thing as the Basajans. And he would charge into his enemy with a bayonet and poke his opposing threat. Next, we have another guard, and this guard is important to guard bases, and he's also a patrolman, so he can patrol around the areas of their country and also guard their bases and arsenal houses from enemies. Next, we have the actual commanding general himself, and the general, or national leader, basically, is in charge of his nation, and he is allies with the Basajans, and they can make things work as long as they both share equal power, which they do. So, yeah, they basically have a good diplomatic friendship and militaristics. Next, we have the submachine gunner, and this guy is armed with a submachine gun, a Thompson. But this is also a weapon that was rejected by the Basajans since it was never really used. Next, we have a semi-automatic rifleman that was borrowed from Basaja as well. Shoots 10 rounds per magazine and can either be switched to single action or double action. Or, I meant single action and then repeater, because that's how cool these weapons are. Next, we have the sniper / sharpshooter. Well, we actually have two. This is what the sniper would be used in the trees or on top of the bases and shoot down their enemies. This is a soldier that's on the field, and he's tasked with shooting high commanding officers of their enemies. So that is what he is trained for. Next, we have the 30 cal machine gunner, which was another weapon that was used by Basaja, but it was rejected and was given to them, so they have their first heavy machine gunner. Next, we have the grenadier, which we all know what his task is. He throws grenades, and this gun he uses as well, but he barely uses it, but he mostly uses his grenades. Next, we have the next semi-automatic rifle, which this thing shoots 10 bullets per magazine, like the other one, and is mostly semi-automatic, so it goes all the time instead of going. So, yeah. Next, we have the second machine gun. His barrel's a little bit bent, but that's okay. You also may recognize this guy from my previous eBay Army Men review video, and he is a Botswana now, so he is a Botswana. And this is his submachine gun, and this was also a Thompson that was also rejected, so they have more Thompsons now in their army, so it's a good effective on their troops. Next, we have the light machine gunner, which is a Bren, but he's missing his bipod because his bipod got removed. And originally, he would have a bipod, so this is what the machine gun would be like. This is a light machine gun, and they use this on the battlefield to carry to and from from where they're located to the next location in case they are required to travel. And then we have the final charger, which is our guy with a rifle poking up. So, yep. Now let's move on to... Now, also just want to let you know, the Botswanans don't have vehicles yet, so I don't have a vehicle selection for them, but soon I will find more vehicles, and I probably would make the Botsanas make random vehicles, which I just don't know yet. But we're now moving on to the geography. Okay, so the colony of Botswana is in the south of Pacifica. The reason why I have the map here is because I had trouble looking for the colony because they're both colored the same, but they're both owned by Pasaja. And if we can look on this Pacifica map, we can tell the difference between which nations owned what. And I hope that this can also give you a great help. So we have the two Kandaharian colonies, and Kandahar represents Belgium. That's what these two represent. Then we got the Bulgarians, Pasajans, the Gratalians, and these five right here are independent. So, but except for Morocco. Morocco is independent, but their alliances they're like a colonial ally to the Bulgaria, but not really considered a colony. So they are independently allies with Bulgaria. But as I was saying, these are independent nations, and Ketchup was once a monarch republic, but now it went to a regular republic, and these nations are still independent. So basically, yeah, that's their nations. But the colony of Botswana is located in the south next to the Bulgarian colony of Bali. So that will be it for today's video. Stay looking out for that poll, and I will see you guys next time.